Over the past few years, Chinese beauty culture has gone through some absolutely insane transformations, fueled by social media mainly, beauty filters, and pretty impossible beauty standards that nobody can meet without cosmetic surgery. It's led to some people in China doing some crazy things in pursuit of a youthful appearance, the perfect baby face, and even the ideal head ratio, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a bit. So today I want to look at some of the most extreme beauty trends taking over China, including the bizarre high skull trend, the unsettling rise of the mask face look, and the influencer who's creating somewhat of an army of clones. Before we get into it, I have to say, if I'm going to get a facelift anywhere, it's going to be China. If I want to get cosmetic surgery done, it's either going to be Korea or China, depending on what I want done. It's not all crazy work. They do some really good work. Also, this video was inspired by a creator called Wani, who's only been on YouTube for less than a year, but has already got a whole back catalogue of interesting videos talking about Chinese society and trends. I've seen a fair few of these on TikTok and on YouTube, which I think led me to his videos. So go have a look at his channel. I'll link it in the description box down below, as well as the sources that we've used for research on this video. So that being said, let's start because there's a lot to talk about in today's video. One of the most bizarre and honestly quite scary trends at the moment in China is the high skull trend. Like a lot of cosmetic procedures, this actually started out pretty harmlessly, but it's grown into something far more dangerous as people are willing to go to more and more extreme lengths to look this particular way. It started with the idea, right, that the shape of your skull can make you look more attractive. Specifically having a taller, rounder head shape that's considered more attractive, apparently. Not necessarily because of the way your head looks itself, but because a higher skull is supposed to make your face look smaller somehow. Now you might be wondering why making your face look smaller would be a good thing. Well, apparently in Chinese beauty culture, and actually I've seen it in Korean culture as well, there's a huge obsession with having a very small face and basically looking like a child. Women want a smaller face, softer features, and an overall cute childlike look. It's kind of creepy that this is what's considered attractive by a lot of people, but maybe we could talk about that in another video. Basically, a lot of women in China want to have a smaller face, or at least look like they have a smaller face. And you kind of see those Chinese filters where they got the really long body and long legs and this tiny head. They want that in real life. This idea began spreading that if the top of your head was larger, your face would automatically look smaller in comparison, like an optical illusion, right? So obviously the internet in China is full of people talking about how you can achieve this look. And like I said, it all started out pretty harmlessly. You can find a lot of this on TikTok as well. People usually do commentary on TikTok about it, and there's the odd repost from Chinese social media. It's a very interesting algorithm to get onto, and you get those like Chinese live dancers as well, which I'm kind of obsessed with at the moment. At first, people tried simple temporary methods like specific hairstyles that made the top of your head appear taller, hidden padding under the hair as well as hair clips or hair extensions to change the way your head looked. What are those things called? Bumpits? Remember bumpits? Probably something like that. Some people even apparently started hiding half a grapefruit peel under their hair to give their head a taller, rounder shape. It started to quickly get a little bit weirder. From there, with influencers and content creators started to talk about the ideal cranial ratios, showing images of women with lines drawn on their faces to measure the proportions of their heads, and discussing what the perfect ratio is between different sections of the head. It reminds me of looks maxing with all their weird ratios and rules and measurements that they're always talking about, but in some way a little bit more intense. Maybe Clavicular will start pushing the high skull trend soon if he isn't in jail, that is. This was all a little strange, but basically harmless, right? But it didn't take long, of course, for cosmetic clinics and other beauty establishments to realize that there was money to be made from this insecurity. Because if you're insecure about your appearance in any way, someone's going to find a way to sell you something to fix, right? Fix the way you look. And this is where things got a lot more extreme, because suddenly this wasn't just about changing your hairstyle a little bit, adding a bumpit here and there, a hidden grapefruit peel anymore. These clinics started pushing the idea that there was a better way to fix your flat head, and they started offering specific cosmetic procedures that claimed to increase the size and improve the shape of the top of your head. One of the most popular methods is simply injecting large amounts of filler directly into your scalp. And when I say large amounts, I mean as many as 50 to 60 syringes of hyaluronic acid per treatment. That's an insane amount of filler to get all at once. Also, because hyaluronic acid isn't permanent, they have to keep going back to get it topped up on a regular basis. Our body breaks it down. It's very good at breaking that down. Well, kind of, there's, that much hyaluronic acid, unsurprisingly, can lead to some unwanted complications. Chinese social media is apparently full of people's horror stories after they had these filler injections done. Due to the ridiculous amount of hyaluronic acid needed to get the effect they want, negative side effects seem to be, unsurprisingly, pretty common, including the acid clumping together and forming lumps, or your immune system having an inflammatory response which can cause nodules months later. Filler can literally move downwards in the face as well, but the side effects can be even worse. Doctors have said that injecting that much hyaluronic acid leads to tissue crowding, which reduces blood flow to the air follicles and leaves people with potentially permanent bald patches. Even some very popular Chinese influencers online have talked about experiencing this side effect, with one being told that after getting the filler dissolved, her hair might grow back, but that wasn't a given at all. But it doesn't just stop at hair loss either. These bald patches are apparently a sign of a more kind of like serious underlying issue. The hair dies off because the follicles don't have enough blood flowing to them anymore. But this is because the tissue surrounding those follicles are losing access to blood as well, because the blood vessels have been compressed so much. If this gets bad enough, then it can cause tissue necrosis, basically your tissue dying because blood flow to the area has been restricted. And if necrosis occurs, then it means scarring and permanent hair loss in that area. Is it worth a big head for that? And as scary as that sounds, some of the other methods of getting a high skull are even more horrifying. Another procedure that's becoming increasingly more common involves using bone cement to change the shape and size of the skull altogether. And yes, it is as bad as it sounds. So bone cement is a type of adhesive which is usually used in orthopedic surgery to fix joints, not to round out people's skulls. It's actually only approved for orthopedic and trauma procedures in China, like joint replacement or fixing spinal fractures. It's not legal to use it for cosmetic purposes, but that doesn't seem to be stopping anyone so far. The procedure basically involves making an incision in the scalp, drilling a bunch of small holes into the bone of your skull, and then injecting this bone cement underneath the scalp. Then the surgeon has to quickly shape the cement by hand before it solidifies, which apparently takes about 2 minutes. After that, it's permanent. You have bone cement grafted to your skull for life, whether you like the final look or not. If you hate it, you are fucked. You may have noticed I said surgeon like this. That's because you might hope that a qualified surgeon is the one carrying out this procedure, right? But apparently some people are even getting these procedures done at beauty salons, not licensed cosmetic clinics or private hospitals. And I very much doubt that beauty salons are hiring actual surgeons to do these procedures. Full head of highlights and some bone cement, please. Unsurprisingly, this method seems to come with or the same potential complications as the massive amounts of filler injections does, like potential necrosis and hair loss, as well as its own unique risks, like a much greater risk of infection, nerve damage, and it can even cause the natural bone underneath to degrade and weaken over time. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not sure those risks are worth it just to get a taller looking skull. I mean, people are literally changing the shape of their heads to fit a pretty temporary beauty standard created by social media. It's a strange choice. I would pick a grapefruit peel or a bum pit over bone cement any day. The next trend I want to talk about might not be as dangerous as injecting fillers or cement into your head, but it is just as bizarre. This is the growing trend of older people in China getting extreme facelifts that pull their skin so tight it makes their face look just like a mask. Now, we've talked about this before. In this video here, I'm going to be so honest with you. I love these before and afters. I love these transformations. I'm just obsessed with looking at them. Now, obviously facelifts themselves aren't unusual. Like I said, if I'm going anywhere for a facelift, it's going to be China. They're probably one of the most popular cosmetic surgery procedures people go for. We've seen the rise of kind of like this new way of doing facelifts as well, especially in Hollywood. After Lindsay Lohan, everyone's like, I want one. I want a facelift. But what's disturbing about this trend is the specific type of facelift that's become popular. Because instead of a proper facelift where surgeons also work beneath the skin, reshaping muscle, fascia, and other tissue to create a natural result, what these clinics are reportedly doing is a much cheaper, old-fashioned procedure where they basically pull the skin on top as tight as possible. So they cut the skin near the back of the ears, right? Stretch it backwards so tight that wrinkles disappear, and sew it up so it stays like that. That's it. That's not a real facelift anymore. And that's exactly why, instead of actually making people look younger like they wanted, a lot of the results end up looking genuinely uncanny valley, like something from a horror film. The face looks overstretched, almost like they've been vacuum sealed. And appearance aside, it also removes the person's ability to have any natural facial expressions. Blinking looks uncomfortable, smiling looks painful and kind of terrifying, and in many cases, people who've undergone the procedure can barely express any emotion with their face at all. The skin is just too tight to move properly. And even though it's probably not as dangerous as the high skull procedures we talked about either, these facelifts do still have their own risks, like the potential for infections, nerve damage, and horrible scarring. That's surgery for you. But in some cases, the skin being pulled so tight can even compress blood vessels again, causing skin necrosis, just like the filler and the bone cement injections, though the risk of this isn't quite as high as with that kind of procedure, but still worth considering when you're getting this kind of work done. All of which is made worse by the fact that a lot of clinics carrying out these types of procedures are apparently, allegedly, unlicensed, and the surgeons they employ aren't qualified to do this kind of work. This is actually a huge problem in China at the moment, with the BBC claiming last year that reports have shown that there are at least 80,000 unlicensed cosmetic clinics and 100,000 cosmetic practitioners working without the correct qualifications in the country. But despite how it looks, how extreme it looks, and the risks that come with it, this trend has become surprisingly popular amongst older women in China who are under huge pressure to maintain a youthful appearance. But what's really shocking is that it's not just older women anymore. Some women in their 30s have also started getting these procedures done. A lot of these women are chasing this completely wrinkle-free, super tight appearance that's become so popular on Chinese social media and live streaming apps, using flattering lighting, insanely good beauty filters, and who knows what other tricks they got up their sleeves, right? Influencers are presenting this unnaturally smooth, childlike look that has become the beauty standard in the country, even though it's completely fake most of the time. What's also disturbing is that the final goal for a lot of people almost doesn't seem to be about beauty anymore, but instead it's about totally removing any possible signs of aging, removing any texture that your skin has, any perceived imperfections, until eventually your face stops looking alive and starts looking manufactured, I guess you could say, almost like a tight mask. And that's why people have been calling it the mask face trend, because at a certain point, it no longer looks like skin. At least not your skin anyway. It looks like someone's pulled a mask over your face made of human skin and stretched it out too tight. And as others have pointed out, including Wani in his video about the trend, a lot of the people who've had this procedure all kind of look the same afterwards. Not completely identical, obviously, but they all have the same shape to their face, the same tight skin, and the same lack of expression. It's the equivalent of like the LA fillers and Botox blonde hair kind of thing. But the next trend I want to talk about has taken this concept even further, because it's not just making people look kind of similar by accident or by chance, it's making them look almost like clones. Wang Jing is a popular Chinese influencer who made a name for herself by openly talking about and documenting the many cosmetic procedures she's undergone to achieve her current look. Most influencers actually try to hide the fact that they're getting cosmetic work done, and they pretend that their appearance is completely natural or down to some skincare product or whatever. So Wang Jing's open approach to her plastic surgery journey was refreshing for a lot of people to see, especially those who wanted to get work done themselves and were struggling to find personal accounts from people who already had it done. And Wang Jing pretty much spoke about everything: what procedures she was getting done, why she was getting them done, how her recovery went, what went wrong, and how she planned on fixing it. She showed the swelling, the bruising, bandages, everything. She was super open about her whole journey, and hundreds of thousands of people loved her for it. It's quite refreshing. But the story doesn't stop there. Over the years, after dozens of cosmetic procedures, spending around $150,000, she transformed herself into what many in China believe is the perfect example of the kind of look and aesthetic that is so popular there at the moment. The tiny face, the perfectly smooth skin, huge eyes, elf-like ears, plump lower eyelids, it all fits exactly with what the new beauty standards in China seem to be now. And even though a lot of people on the outside think this is kind of creepy, this woman is in her early 30s, by the way, and pretty much looks like a child. That's apparently what's considered beautiful in China. So it's probably no surprise that many of her fans want to replicate what she's done and get the same look. And Wang Jing has capitalized on that, doing something that I don't think any other influencer has ever done, at least as far as I'm aware. Let me know. Because Wang Jing has opened her own cosmetic surgery clinic where her face is the template for everyone else to aspire to. What's even weirder is that Wang Jing allegedly refers to a clinic as her kingdom, and followers have to actually pay to become members, and it isn't cheap. A membership apparently costs around $7,300, and after paying for a membership, they then spend tens of thousands having procedures done by her surgeon to make them look like her. Not just similar to her overall aesthetic, but as close to exactly like her as possible. And the procedures at her clinic aren't cheap either, with just 3 hyaluronic acid injections apparently costing $5,700. For reference, the same treatment in the UK would probably cost around a third of that, roughly, or you can pay $3,800 to get shoulders shaped like Wang Jing's. I'm not sure how they do that. I have no idea, but I'm pretty sure it's not worth almost $4,000, right? For shoulders, I don't know. What's crazy though is that apparently over 500 people had joined her kingdom as of August of 2024. So the number is probably far higher now, as the clinics still seem to be running, or then pay for the exact same surgeries she's had herself, following her personal beauty blueprint almost step by step, so they can recreate her face as closely as possible. So essentially, people are paying money to turn themselves into copies of a social media influencer, which is kind of hard to comprehend. I know like a lot of people look the same nowadays because they're all getting the same lips, same eyebrows, the same like thread lift things. You know, everyone went through a stage where everybody literally looked like Kim Kardashian, but this is to an extreme level of that. And when you see photos of Wang Jing standing next to some of her followers, it really is shocking how similar they look. And aside from having the same facial structure, they often also have the same clothes, the same makeup, the same hairstyle, even the same expressions on their face. They really do seem to want to look just like her. This trend seems to be gaining popularity as well. Wang Jing describes herself as a face designer on social media now, where she's still posting new clone transformations on a regular basis. So who knows how many lookalikes there are of her today. It's a weird change in the world of beauty. It seems like some people aren't trying to just become better versions of themselves, anymore. They're trying to become the exact same person as somebody else. And there have always been some people who have tried to look exactly like their favorite celebrity, right? I mean, there's always those stories like so-and-so paid however many thousands to look like Kim Kardashian or whatever from BTS, and they usually look nothing like them. But we've all seen the stories of people who try and make themselves look like Britney Spears, Kim Kardashian, or even David Beckham. Have you seen that David Beckham one? He looks nothing like him. But I've never seen it done on this scale before or this successfully. It's crazy. I never would have guessed that this is where influencer culture would go, where it would end up one day, with people basically cloning themselves at a massive level, and an influencer actually opening up her own surgery to allow people to do that. I guess we'll just have to wait and see if this is a trend that stays in China, or we'll see celebrities like Kylie Jenner, Lindsay Lohan setting up their own cloning clinics in the next few years, letting people pay to get the same procedures they did and try to look just like them too. Imagine that. Imagine that. Whatever happens, it seems like China has some of the strangest beauty trends around at the moment, but I must say, they are ahead of the game when it comes to cosmetics, when it comes to a lot of things. And I really want to go back to Shanghai now as an older person who could probably appreciate it much more than I did when I was like 19. And you know, it's not just China, this happens all over the world. But as interesting as it can be to see what beauty standards and trends are like in other countries, I definitely hope that China's obsession with women looking like children is something that never makes it to the West. It's kind of creepy. We have more than enough problems with beauty standards in the West. We don't need people in their like 20s and 30s turning themselves into like creepy babe-faced dolls as well. Terrifying. What's actually worrying is that out of a lot of these trends and standards in China, they seem to be very heavily driven by the widespread use of beauty filters online, social media algorithms that constantly push people towards more and more extreme versions of perfection, and influencers who have increasingly more sway over what their followers think is normal. And as I said, this isn't a problem specific to China, not in the slightest, right? Their filters, algorithms, and influencers may have pushed their beauty standards to a place that seemed weird to us, but we have all the same problems. We're already seeing people use filters every day to completely change their faces online, and the filters are getting better and better and more undetectable. Our algorithms also push extreme versions of perfection. Our influencers also have a huge amount of status in today's society, especially amongst younger people. So it does make you wonder, like, what crazy trends and standards have our social media platforms been pushing on people? And where are they going to go? How much weirder is it going to get in the near future? Because China's beauty standards may be different to ours, but that doesn't mean ours are necessarily better in any way, or what's happening in China can't happen over here. But if you want to see some more about China's craziest trends, then please go check out Wonnie's channel. It's so interesting. His videos on these topics have some more information in them that I haven't covered here, like looking into the background of some of the doctors carrying out those horrifying facelifts, and going into more detail about Wang Jing's transformation, as well as some of the drama she's been involved in recently. He also talks about a whole bunch of other bizarre Chinese beauty trends and Chinese society in general. It's like a whole other world. It's very interesting. So if you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you'll enjoy his channel a lot more. But that's everything I have for you today though. Let me know what you think. Which do you think is the strangest beauty trend happening in China right now and here in the UK and the US? Would you ever pay to make yourself look like your favorite celebrity? And what beauty trends do we have that you think are as weird as the ones we talked about today? Let me know in the comments, and hopefully I'll see you next time.